Hey everyone, David Dalton here. As you can tell, this is a pretty impromptu, spur-of-the-moment kind of video. I promise that eventually I'll get around to doing this video in a much more production quality type of thing. But for now, I felt like this information was just too important to procrastinate on any further. Frankly, I've waited too long as it is. The thing is, I get asked by a lot of you about restraint devices for physical restraint. Whenever I do a conference or someone discovers one of my videos on my YouTube channel, I invariably get questions where someone will say, David, we wholeheartedly agree with what you're saying, but there's a practical problem we just can't get past, and that is there just don't seem to be any viable options for physical restraint devices that work well for EMS. There's nothing that works with an ambulance stretcher. Now, if you fall into that category, I completely feel your pain. I spent the better part of close to 1.5 to 2 years searching everywhere I could to try and find a device that fit the bill. See, the problem is most devices on the market are made with hospital beds in mind. So you end up with securing straps, like anchoring straps, that are far too long for them to have any real benefit to them when they're attached to an ambulance stretcher that's so narrow by comparison to a hospital bed. And then you have devices that are made only for applications with people who are sedated on, like, say, propofol, who are intubated and on a ventilator. And the purpose of the restraint is simply to prevent the patient from reaching up and extubating themselves. Those are not made for restraining an aggressive individual who may be experiencing excited delirium or is high on methamphetamine, cocaine, some sort of stimulant. Those things just aren't going to work. So over the span of about 2 years, I collected somewhere between 100 to 150 different physical restraint devices, and it was a very discouraging process. Over that time, I was very close to giving up. It just seemed like there wasn't a device available that fit the bill for EMS. In fact, at one point I was even considering inventing my own device because there just didn't seem to be any other option. Thankfully, though, I have come across 2 devices now that would work very well for EMS. But these are the only 2 devices that I would even consider remotely sharing with all of you and recommending to EMS services. The first is the Posey Twice as Tough Cuff. Now, pay close attention here because this is important. Posey makes several variations of their Twice as Tough Cuff line, and they're not all appropriate for what we do. In fact, of the different variations, there's only one Twice as Tough Cuff that I would ever recommend, and that is models 2798 and 2799. And you can see it's made of webbing strap just like any other soft restraint on the market, but there are a couple of things that set this apart from other devices. One is the webbing strap itself, as you can see here, is pretty thick. This is heavy duty. It's wide. I mean, I can't tell you how much stronger this feels compared to a lot of the webbing strap that I have come across in these devices. What's especially nice about this is that you have webbing strap that goes all the way around the point that attaches to the wrist or the ankle. So the Velcro is backed up by tough webbing strap. So you don't just have Velcro to rely on. You've got a backup system, so to speak. Now, this is the part of the device that I know is going to be controversial, and that is the fact that the Twice as Tough Cuff that I'm recommending utilizes a lock. In fact, it is a double lock system. And now, I will say that when I began my search, I tried very hard to avoid any device that used a key. There's a stigma against devices that are keyed in EMS, and the reason for that, though, if you really take a hard look at it, it's not that EMS is opposed to anything that uses a key. It's that we do not want to use any device that uses a key that cannot be opened in any other way. So for example, a hard restraint like handcuffs. You lose the keys, how do you get the patient out? If you have an emergency situation and you're using a pair of leather restraints that uses some sort of keyed locking device, you lose the key, what do? You're going to grab your hacksaw and hope that you can cut through the thing in time to get a patient out of a burning ambulance or some other horrible disaster? That makes perfect sense if you think about it. That's why you don't want to use a keyed device. But this is different because this is not a hard restraint. You still have webbing strap that comprises the majority of it. So if you happen to lose the keys for this device, all you have to do, grab your trauma shears or a good pocket knife and just cut the thing off and the patient's free. Now the chances of actually losing the keys to this device are pretty remote because each pair of these cuffs comes along with 2 keys. In other words, you have 2 wrist restraints, you have 2 keys. You have 2 ankle restraints, you have another 2 keys. So if you have the device on the truck, you have at least 4 keys available to you. Chances of all 4 going missing are pretty slim. Now, I won't say they're impossible because this is EMS, and we all know that equipment has a tendency to walk away on its own. Now, the agency that I work for went a step further, and we took an extra key and secured it to the ignition keys for every ambulance in our fleet. So it would be much more difficult for that key to walk away on its own. So potentially, you could have as many as 5 keys on board the ambulance. And if you happen to lose them all, which is pretty unlikely, but if you did, you'd still have the ability to use trauma shears and cut the webbing strap to get the patient free from the stretcher. Now, once I discovered the twice as tough cuff, I concluded that my search had come to an end. So I stopped looking. And that's when I was contacted by Jason Brooks of DT for EMS. That's Defensive Tactics Training for EMS and fire and other healthcare workers. He contacted me one day and put me in touch with the creator of a newer device that's called the XD cuff. Now, I've got a link in the description box that'll take you to his website that'll tell you all about this really impressive device. There are several things about the XD cuff that I really like. One of which is that the device is made and comes packaged in a way that it's meant to be pre-installed on your ambulance stretcher long before you ever have need of it. So you could have all 4 limb restraints on the stretcher ready for rapid deployment in a moment's notice. That's impressive. The other thing about the rapid deployment is that these packages, they kind of just hang near their anchoring points until it's time to use them, in which case all you do, reach up, grab the package, pull it out, and it extends the webbing strap to its full length, and you just take the cuff, secure it around the patient's wrist or ankle, and cinch it down as tight as you need to, and boom, you're done. It's that simple. The device does not use a keyed lock. It doesn't use any sort of backup mechanism like a D-ring or anything like that. Instead, what goes around the extremity is just Velcro, a really, really strong, heavy-duty Velcro. I have to confess that when I first found out that the device relies so heavily on Velcro alone for attaching to a patient's extremities, I was really nervous. I wasn't comfortable putting my faith into Velcro alone. So I contacted the inventor of the XD cuff and just told him what my concerns were. And I asked him if there was any information regarding strength testing that had been done on the device to see just how much force the Velcro could withstand. And he was very accommodating, very receptive took the time to listen to my concerns and sent me all kinds of information. And you can find that too in the link in the description below. The bottom line is that the Velcro is very impressively strong, much stronger than I ever would have guessed. So that was more reassuring. I would recommend that you get in touch with both of these companies and get a set of the XD cuffs as well as the twice as tough cuffs model from Posey that I recommended. Take a look at both. Set them side by side. Try them out in your ambulance with your stretcher and see what you like best. I guarantee you that you will like one of those devices, if not both. You may end up having a very hard time making a decision. But the point is, there are at least these two devices that will work. Now maybe I should have said this at the very beginning, but in answer to the question that's probably on your mind, no. No one is paying me to endorse their product. I don't get any money from the XD cuff manufacturer. I get nothing from Posey. No one is giving me any money for recommending these devices. You know, somebody ought to be paying me for this. So rest assured, you are only getting this recommendation from me. You're only seeing my name put on this because I truly believe in the device. And if you happen to know of any other devices that you've come across that you think is a perfect fit for an ambulance, please let me know. Share it in the comments section below. Email me at david@ddaltonproductions.com or contact me through my website, restraint.com. And I would be thrilled to take a look at any options that you have discovered. And if it's something that fits the bill, I will gladly recommend it here to anyone else that works in the EMS industry. Hey, thanks a lot for listening today. I appreciate your time. I wish you well, be safe, and God bless.